Hello everyone, my name's Bill Anderson. I live in Aberdeenshire in Scotland. I'm married with two grown-up sons and I love the Lord Jesus Christ. I want to tell you about that because I was brought up as an atheist. I have three sisters and a brother. My mother, it was drummed into us by our father that there was no God, and that's how we grew up. I was a policeman in Aberdeen for 30 years, and as a 19-year-old joining the police, I remember that in society in those days, although you didn't even go to church, there was a Christian influence, there was a Christian morality in society. And just because we were brought up as atheists, we had that form of knowledge of morality and right and wrong. I remember the first time I heard a woman swear as a young policeman. Got a shock of my life. I didn't know women swore. And I still remember her full name to this day. Such was the impression she left. I was married in 1972, and my wife and I, in 1975, moved to a new estate that was being built. We were there with our son, who was just over 1 year old. And that November, we had a knock on the door by two men offering the services of the local church. Now, they came to the wrong door, really. But one of the men I knew, it was a colleague of mine, and he was going to be occupying a house 5 doors away when his house was complete. So we invited him in both of them in for a cup of tea, and it was the longest cup of tea that I've ever seen anyone take. This colleague of mine kept speaking about this Jesus, and I wondered when he was going to leave. Anyway, he was winning all the arguments, but one of the things he said was that while he was working at Aberdeen Harbour, he went onto this tugboat and come off freed, been prayed for by a Pentecostal tugman, and had been freed from an alcohol problem that he had, and also was speaking in another language, which the Bible now, it speaks about being tongues. But I didn't know that in those days. But I did fancy having another language and without having to learn it. And that was the hook that God used to draw me in. That night, because he was winning all the arguments and he knew the Bible, I picked up this leather-bound Bible that my wife was given just a week before by her mother, and I started to read the Gospel of Matthew. I read the part where it says this Jesus is going along this narrow way that leads to everlasting life, and I was on this broad road that led to destruction. I love my wife and I love my son, and I thought if there's any way I can keep us all together after this life is finished, I need to find it. As I read through the Gospel of Matthew, at the end, it speaks about Jesus' trial and crucifixion. And for his trial, they paid false witnesses to tell lies about him, but they couldn't even get their stories right. I thought, this Jesus that I'm reading about has done nothing wrong. As I thought those words, now Anna's sleeping, my wife is sleeping, I saw a picture of a hand on top of a piece of wood, and with a hammer like a mallet, with anger and venom and hatred, it was driving this nail into this hand. Then I got a shock. I was holding the hammer. I remember thinking the words, Jesus, I am sorry for putting you there. And as I thought those words, the picture changed, and I could see Jesus on the cross. He was in absolute pain and agony. But as he seemed to hear my words, sorry for putting you there, he looked up, and with the most beautiful smile, he said, come. I was still lying in bed, but it was as though I took a step towards him, and this feeling came up through my feet, my legs, my body, went out my head, and I felt inside as though I had been scrubbed clean, tingly clean with a scrubbing brush and soap. And I felt so happy. I started to cry, and I thought, if my wife wakens up just now, she's going to think I've lost it. So I put down the Bible, went to sleep. The next night, I finished the story in the Gospel of Matthew, and I realized that this Jesus that had died the night before had come back to life. He'd gone up back into heaven. There was a man in heaven with a body, with nail prints in his hands and feet. He was never going to taste death again. He loved me, and somehow or another, I was related to him. I knew nothing